Welcome to Things My Mother Forgot to Mention.
The podcast where we say everything our mothers didn't.
I'm Jan, a trauma therapist and author turned rogue storyteller, here to talk openly about the body, aging, and all the, wait, what? Moments of womanhood.
And I'm Patty, an online business and tech nerd whose purpose is to elevate the voices of women in our world and who doesn't believe in taboo topics. Things My Mother Forgot to Mention is the podcast for every woman who's ever said, wait, why didn't anyone mention this to me?
Join Jan and Patty, two outspoken, curious, outrageous women, as they dive headfirst into a messy, magical, and often WTF realities of aging, health, and quite simply being a woman.
From rogue chin hairs and vaginal thinning
to mental health, perimenopause, and scalp cancer. Yes, really.
Nothing is off limits. It's funny, it's raw, it's real talk your mother definitely skipped.
Let's get into it.
Hey, Jan.
Hey, Patty. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. How are you?
I'm feeling a little more relief now that my book is published and up on Amazon. It was quite a week for me, but yay, woohoo!
My copy has just arrived. It's in my parcel locker, so I have to go grab it today. I'm very excited.
Thank you.
Well, because I realized I had never read your book. I actually had started listening to the audio version of the first one, and I don't know what happened because I was interested. So I'm not sure what occurred that I didn't finish it.
Well, thank you.
But I got very excited to read the new one.
And you got to download the forms too, because those
Yes.
are clutch,
Yeah.
They make the whole book. So anyway,
Yeah.
So, well, today we're doing a little follow-up on what we had done talking about cancer, skin cancer, which I've had a battle with for, ever since probably the last 20 years it started showing up because of all the torturing I did of myself when I was young and never used sunscreen, or I don't think they had sunscreen. And today we've got one of my colleagues, a really good friend, and Laura Williams. And let me tell you just a little bit about Laura. Laura has known since her early 20s that she was called to this work, and that's her counseling practice. Through the path to Be Found counseling has been anything but linear. 3 children, multiple moves, seasons of loss and growth, and her own healing journey have shaped the compassionate and grounded way she now practices. As a counselor, Laura finds deep meaning in witnessing hope, healing, and redemption unfold in real time. She hopes every person she meets experiences dignity, understanding, and unconditional care. Laura serves as core faculty with Healing Our Core Issues Institute, where she teaches a model centered on human worth, healthy boundaries, and secure connection. She often says her work offers hope in the wilderness, walking with clients as they find belonging and restoration in the midst of life's hardest seasons. So very nice. And I would love to welcome Laura to our podcast.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
Yes. And all this talk about your book, mine should be here today.
Yay.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I'm touched that you would even come on our podcast and talk about, to me, a very vulnerable thing that you've been through in the last, what has it been, year?
Been about a year. Yep. Just over a year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And before, when we were just chatting and before we started this, we were talking about, things your mother forgot to mention. And you said your mom was still alive. And how was she with all of this journey you went through with breast cancer?
Yeah. It was interesting. I mean, I think every mother probably never ever wants to experience the death of a child, right? I don't think that you never want to have to even entertain that. And so I think in many ways that was really the primary feeling she had around that, which was interesting because it was actually a very connecting thing for us.
Oh, nice.
Where Yeah, so it was very interesting. I think it was very hard because as we kind of talked through, cancer does not run in my family. Um, and so, I mean, colon cancer and lung cancer, but that's because my grandparents were horrible about their health.
Yeah.
But, other than that, I don't have cancer in my
So when
family.
your grandparents had, are these your paternal or fraternal grandparents?
Both.
Both.
Well, my paternal grandmother lived to be, oh my gosh, almost 90.
Wow.
And she actually, the worst thing she had was kind of similar to what you were all talking about last week. She did have melanoma, which she didn't end up
Oh,
dying from, but that was her only cancer. And again, staying in the sun all the
Yeah.
time,
yeah.
no sunscreen, nothing.
So how
Um,
did your
yeah.
grandparents then talk about cancer, or how was it handed down to you as it growing up, which probably didn't get handed down?
No, no. I mean, in my family, we kind of avoided most topics,
Mm.
anything that was.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
I know, but you know how it is.
We didn't really talk about anything.
Right, exactly. Listen, the three of us know how this works. We avoided all topics that were hard, or
Mhm.
we prayed about it, and
Mhm.
so there wasn't really a whole lot of education around illness or disease or cancer. I mean, I knew that my grandparents had cancer. I mean, I was in my 20s when they
Mhm.
did, but I didn't really know what that meant,
Right.
or even what it meant for me.
Mhm.
I mean, at that point, I didn't know, okay, well, if your grandparent dies from colon cancer, that might mean something for you, or,
Right.
Right.
any of those things. Yeah.
They probably didn't even know that way back then,
No.
genetics and all that. Hmm.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the interesting thing for this is, I did all of the testing, all of the genetic testing and everything else, and I have no genes that would even indicate that
Mm.
this would be something that would pop up for me. So, in
Wow.
fact, all of my markers are very clear. Like,
What
I
a
don't,
shock it
I
must
So
have
know.
been.
this was just a shock to you. So do you mind
Yeah,
talking a little bit about sort of the journey of it and how
sure.
you got to the point and if it was a lump or like what that looked like for you?
Yeah. Well, this sounds like a kind of a scary thing, but really there was nothing. There was no lump. There was no indication that anything was wrong. I was just going in for my routine mammogram. And this is my plug for every woman needs to get their mammograms every single year
Yeah.
Yeah.
because my medical oncologist looked at me one day and she goes, "You are literally the poster child for why we do mammograms. Because
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
at my stage, that's 98% curable, but people don't do what they're supposed to do. And so they don't catch it until it's stage one, stage two, stage three. And by that time, it's just much more difficult to manage.
Right.
And I can give an analogy of that my doctor gave me, but really it was just a routine mammogram, and I got a thing in the mail that said it was abnormal, and I thought, well, that's weird. And so then went back, and then um, that's when I really started feeling the shift in the radiologists. Like
Wow.
they took the pictures and then they brought me back to the office and they're like, "Hey, we don't really like what this looks like." And I mean, they start throwing out numbers and we're 50% sure this is probably something we need to worry about, and unless I'm 80% sure that it's not, like they start throwing numbers at you and you're just like, I
Mm.
mean, my question is like, am I dying? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no answers at that point.
Right.
Um, I had no idea of what stage it's at, what's
They
going
didn't tell you
on.
that? They didn't say
They didn't
anything?
know. They
Oh,
don't know. And so, because they're going on just the image,
yeah.
right? And so they didn't know what was going on. And other than this is suspicious, we don't like this. So luckily, I had been through something similar, not breast cancer, but something similar about 15 years ago. And I'd already had a surgeon at this point.
Mm.
And so I just called up my surgeon and I was like, "Hey, I got some, weird stuff going on." He gets me in right away and he takes one look at it and he says the same thing. "I don't like this."
Mm.
He's like,
Wow.
we need to do something with this." Um, and so, it just was very unnerving and shocking and like, I can't believe this is happening. I'm 48
Right,
years old. Like, what is going on? You know?
right, right.
So, so then it starts this whole
Didn't it take you a
process.
long time to get into
Yes.
it? Because I remember being around you and getting that news, and then, here it happens, you go into shock and
Yes.
you're thinking, is this the fourth stage? Is this the end?
Right.
And I think you had to wait how long before you
Oh
got it?
yeah. I had to wait. I mean, from the mammogram to the diagnosis was 2 months.
Oh my
Wow. Oh,
gosh.
Yeah. It was a long time. And, they kept telling me, um, it's contained, it's okay. But we just want to be sure, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there thinking, every minute you do this, like
Right.
every minute is another moment where it could move or it could spread. So I felt like everything I did, I was like, oh my God, I literally
right.
have,
Moving your arms or thinking, is
yes,
it right? Exactly.
yes. Is it moving around? Like massage. I didn't get massage anymore. I was like,
Mm.
trying hard to figure out like how do I figure this out?
Right.
Um,
How do
and
you
then,
function in that? Like for
right.
2 months to sit there and I mean, it's so interesting because I like would imagine when you think about cancer, when you think about how dangerous it is, for
Hmm.
me, I would always imagine it as like, oh, we go now. Like we get
Yeah,
you in as soon as possible and we try to figure this out because of that exact reason. But for it to like the reality of it to take as long as it did is
right.
terrifying. What a
Yeah,
like, and you're trying to function as a human in the world while you're
right,
not sure about
right,
what's going on inside of your body.
right. Because at the same time, I mean, you all know this, when you work for yourself, no one's
Yeah.
paying your paycheck. And
Right.
so
Right.
there's no time, like all I'm thinking is,
Mhm.
okay, well, I'm going to have medical bills out the wazoo.
Right.
So I'm going to have to work because now I'm going to have to figure out how to pay for all this, how to, right? And so, like, your brain starts going a million
Mhm.
miles a minute. And it's not just, do I have cancer? Am I dying? It's, okay, well, how do I like afford cancer? How
Mhm.
do I, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many crazy thoughts that start coming
Plus,
through your
let alone you seeing clients.
right.
And
Oh,
here it
yeah.
is, you're trying to focus on your client and
Yes.
you have to be compartmentalizing or something to
Yes.
just to be in those 2 months that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't think about this right now.
Right, right. Which I always say those unhealthy patterns come in handy sometimes, right?
Right, right.
Right. Yeah.
Dissociating, any of those,
Yes.
compartmentalizing, those are helpful sometimes.
Yes,
Binging
sometimes.
reality television, whatever you need to
Right,
do to make it
I
television,
through.
know.
serial
I
watching
know.
of TV shows.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, detaching just a wee bit, as Ashley and I say, my best friend.
Hmm.
You're like, just a wee bit detached right now, but
Yeah.
that's okay. We'll come back.
Yeah.
But it just was really overwhelming. And
Mm.
for a long time just didn't really have
Now,
a
did
whole
you
lot
tell
of answers.
your family, or did you kind of keep that from them? I mean, you have three sons, right?
Yes.
Mm.
At that point, I mean, yeah, I had to say something because I was going back and forth to the hospital all the time because I mean, not only was the hard part about it was like my doctor is very thorough, which I'm thankful for. But there were so many biopsies, and then I had to have an MRI, and then MRI found more spots, and I had to have more biopsies. And
Mm.
so it was like this huge process. And so by the time I was like, I was going back and forth to the hospital, and we have this, awesome tracking on our phones now, so sometimes my son will pull up like, where is everybody? And I didn't want him seeing
Where's
like me
mom? She's at the
being,
hospital. What's
yeah,
wrong with that? Yeah.
right, exactly. So I gave them, the kind of bird's eye view of what this is, and that we're trying to figure it out, and it's going to be okay. But here's what it is, and um, that was hard though because
Mhm.
I didn't really have a whole lot of
Because you
answers.
didn't have any answers yourself, and you're trying
Mm-mm.
Um,
to make everybody feel secure or safe,
Yeah,
and you're like not yourself. I mean, just
right,
wondering yourself. Wow.
right, right.
And
Yeah.
so I'm curious, so did they have, when you say biopsy, did they actually go in and surgically cut in and to biopsy it and it's like a margin, see what they're taking out? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
It
Laura.
It's actually like I hate to, I mean, I feel like some of this makes people not want to go get mammograms because you're like, oh, but these biopsies are really barbaric. I
Mm,
mean, honestly, sometimes I think, what are we doing to women? There's got to be a better way to figure this out.
right.
Um, but there's, you're in these different contraptions and they're putting needles in and, like trying to get tissue samples. And, my procedure, which Ashley actually took me to, was supposed to be a 30-minute procedure and it took 3 hours.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
3 hours.
Wow. And
Um,
what
yeah,
was this the final where they took out? No, this was still
it
biopsying
was
3
biopsy
hours?
number one.
Oh
Oh
my
my
Yeah,
gosh.
gosh.
yeah. And it's because of the location of it. The location of it was very close to my chest wall. And so, not only is it stressful to be in there, right? But I'm laying down and they've got this contraption and you've got, different things prodding and poking everywhere. And you're numb, but you're still knowing what's happening. And you
Right.
hear
Yeah.
people talking and they're like, well, if we can't get close to the chest wall, we can't do this. And we've got to get this. And I'm like, oh my
Oh my
God, like what is
goodness.
happening? What is happening? And all the while, poor Ashley's waiting out in the lobby, like
Thinking it's
this,
30 minutes.
yeah. And
Right.
3 hours later, I'm still back there. And, it was just kind of like, it was just very overwhelming in the moment
Must have thrown you into all different kinds of trauma, I would imagine.
oh, yeah. I mean, there was just so much anxiety and, just having to go through the procedures of it is almost worse than the diagnosis. Like,
Mm,
the procedures of everything, and the time and the energy and the anxiety, everything. I'm like, it
yeah.
just was so much. Yeah.
Right.
So when they finally then did diagnose it after
hmm
2 months, what was the treatment?
So what they decided, so luckily with mine, um, they call it stage zero. And in fact, this is kind of like an odd thing, which I hope this does not happen because it will actually limit women in their ability to get healthcare around this. Because it's called stage zero, and this is where my analogy came in handy. Good old male doctor with his analogies. He said, like you have the pipes in your basement. And he said, in your basement, you got all these pipes and there's stuff in there, right? And it's in there. And eventually it might burst. Okay.
Mm,
And so that's what I was having. So I have cancer cells
uh,
in my ducts. So it's
Hmm.
called ductal carcinoma in situ, okay, which means that it's cancer, but it's still in the pipes of your breasts, right?
Hmm.
And they don't know when or if it will burst.
Oh,
wow.
And
So
so
once
like
it
those are
when
the
bursts,
you say
glands. What do they call them? They have to, what do they
they're
call
they're your ducts.
the
So your
ducts that have?
ducts in your breasts. Yeah.
Hmm.
And some a lot of people are walking around with it, but just not the amount that it would cause a mammogram to pull it
mm,
up. So
yeah.
mine was enough that the pipes were pretty clogged. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
Gosh.
so,
So it's like when you say burst, it's like that would make a tumor an actual like is that kind
well,
of what you mean?
kind of what happens is when it goes from that to bursting, it's
Hmm.
called invasive breast cancer at that point.
Ah, oh, got it.
So,
Okay.
and that's where it starts stage one, stage two, stage three.
Got
Okay.
it.
So, and this is where I'm learning so much through this process.
Yeah.
And so what my doctor told me is they're actually trying to make what's called ductal carcinoma in situ, which is DCIS. If you look it up, you'll find it. But most women don't know about it until they're diagnosed with it. Um, it's some doctors will say it's pre-cancer. It is not.
Right.
It's cancer. But what they're trying to do is get it to not be cancer, which means that if a woman has it, they no longer have the right to radiation. They no longer can get a mastectomy. They can't, yeah.
Right. Right. Of
What?
course.
So,
Of course. Why
yeah.
would we want to, you know?
Why would we want women to have choices
Yeah,
when
no.
she could, like literally, I mean, this is again, once it's stage one, it drastically reduces.
Right.
So, like at this point, I had so many choices to prevent me from actually going to stage one. But
Right.
if they remove it as a cancer diagnosis, it removes those choices too.
Right.
So it's very
Right.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so basically yours didn't burst. Your pipes
Right.
didn't burst.
Yep.
They
My
got
pipes didn't
they
burst.
got the pipes before that were filled with cancer
Yep.
that was going to eventually burst. I
Yeah.
see. And that's
Yes.
zero. That's called zero.
Yep.
Wow.
Exactly. And they don't really have a name for it other than DCIS, which is what they
Mhm.
call it. But most of the, like WebMD and Mayo Clinic, they call it stage zero cancer.
Mm.
And it's funny when you're talking to different people. I mean, my surgeon was very clear. He's because I think he thought, if I tell her it's cancer, she thinks she's dying, right?
Right.
He kept saying, we're okay, we're okay, we're okay. This isn't cancer. And everyone around me, nurses, mammogram people, everybody else was like, I'm so sorry about your cancer diagnosis.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's just, again, talk about confusing. It's just like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Well, I think it's interesting, right? Because and that's why I think this conversation is really important because there's so much about all of that that so many people don't know. I mean, that we're
right.
sitting here learning what that means. And
Mm-hmm.
so that difference between your cancer diagnosis and it being scary, it's always scary, but what stages it's at and all of that. I mean, I think it's really important for people to
Right.
understand all of that and the different types of cancer and the different stages of that. And yeah,
Yeah. Which is, I mean, it is scary because regardless of whatever stage it is, you're still going through the same things,
yeah,
right? Like you're still getting the biopsies, you're still, going through surgery, you're still having options for mastectomy or not mastectomy, So there's still a lot of decisions. It's just you don't have like at stage two or stage three, there's not the huge gap between 98% we think this is going to be okay and ooh, now we're sitting at 70%,
Mm-hmm.
right,
you
right.
know?
And there's always the chance that it moves faster
Oh,
and like grows. I
yeah.
mean, so even though it's not there yet at stage zero, there's still a chance at
Oh,
any
yeah.
moment for it to
Mhm.
move. So it is still absolutely
Right.
terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then, just even just from a education standpoint, once you have that, I mean, I've done all the research now, your odds go way up.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like I have a 70% chance, but man, if I had a, 2% chance of having cancer, now it's like 20,
Right.
so
Wow.
it's a big
Mean for
jump.
it to come back or to be on the other side or the
Yeah.
same area. I see.
Yeah. To come back or any of those things.
Mhm.
So,
And so was the treatment actually a radiation or was
yes,
it actually, did they do an incision and take, it was a lumpectomy or?
both. So we did because of my age. The doctor was like, well, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is you're really young. The bad news is you're really young. And so there's a lot more time for this to come back, right? So
Mm,
that's why I had to be careful with this.
Mm-hmm.
I have more years to live, so the odds are higher that it will come back.
right.
Um, and so that's when they talked about radiation because, I had the choice to just have a lumpectomy and not do radiation, but that was highly advised against because of my age. Radiation dropped it down like 30%. I mean, it was
Mm,
a huge, I mean, it was like a no-brainer. I'm like, no, I can't. Um, and so that's when we opted for radiation. Thankfully, I didn't have to do chemo because it was so contained. They weren't concerned about doing chemo, which I was very thankful for. But the radiation, that was um, every day for 20 days,
Oh,
going every day to the hospital
right.
um, and being in there. I mean, talk about like the stress and anxiety. I mean, I went for my follow-up just recently and it took me a minute to regulate because you're going into this space and it's just filled with people who are dying.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
and
bet.
every day I was going to these places and,
Sitting around with all of them. Right.
right. And I mean, you actually start meeting people. Like you actually start, because people tend to go at the same time and get the radiation. And and then you start hearing stories, and there are people that this is like their last ditch effort, and you're just sitting there and you're taking all this in, and there's gratitude there, right? Because I get to go home and know that I'm gonna probably be okay,
Mhm.
right? But then there's just this overwhelming, like, everything is just like sick, sick, like this is,
Mm.
Hopeless, it's sick,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
dying, it's,
yeah,
depressing, oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
And so radiation is where you basically go in and lie down and they have some kind of a laser or something. Is that what that is?
Yes. So it's wild. I mean, and again, like, I made friends with all these nurses. They're awesome people. All these radiation techs, I still know them. We're going out to dinner at some point here in the next couple weeks. Um, but one has been doing this for, oh my gosh, like 30 or 40 years. And so she's seen, so much advancement over time where, you know, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, I mean, it was like burning people. It was like
Well,
horrible,
that's what I
right?
thought.
Yeah. No, it's really bad.
It's changed.
Right.
Wow.
And even though it has changed, I mean, it was not
Painful?
comfortable. It's painful. Yeah. Not in the process, but it's like the worst sunburn you've ever gotten.
Mm.
Like, you
Oh,
know, and it keeps going. So, like, after I finished my 20 rounds, um, then it keeps going. It's almost like, you know how I mean, the only way I can equate this to is like when we all had acne, and they're like, well, if you do this, it's going to pull everything out of your skin. You know what I mean? Like, you're washing your
Mm.
face and you're like, this is going to make everything better. And then all of a sudden, all the stuff starts coming out of
Yeah.
your
hmm
skin.
hmm
That's what happens with radiation. So,
Oh,
like, you doing the radiation, and like 2 weeks in, you're like, oh, okay, well, this is okay. And then your skin starts changing, it gets red, it gets really painful. And
hmm
then once you finish it, then it starts like blistering and everything starts coming out. It is the strangest thing.
Mm.
It
wow.
really
Wow.
is strange.
And so, how long did you, after 20 days, it keeps going? You said, so did it ever stop after that, or is it
It
still?
does. It probably about a month. About a month after that
Mhm.
was when I started feeling like, okay, my skin is back to normal. But
Mhm.
it's strange things. I mean, I don't know how like much you all want to know, but it's really strange
Tell
things.
us whatever
Like,
you would like.
okay,
Yeah.
it's really strange things. And this will sound really funny, and maybe this is too vulnerable, but we always your breast changes after you have radiation and after you have surgery. Like,
Yeah.
it is not the same. And so there was a period of time after I was done with radiation that I just had this like yucky, oozy stuff that was like
Oh,
underneath my nipple. And it was just, I
Interesting.
was like, what is this? Like,
yeah.
nobody tells
Nobody
you this.
tells you that. Oh, God.
Right.
No, no.
Right. Yeah, I
And
was
I'm
going to
thinking,
ask about the side effects of
yeah,
radiation,
well,
right?
that's one of them. And
Yeah.
be careful what you read, because I had a total panic moment, because the part of the stuff you read is like, oh, that probably means you have more cancer that's coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And then I started panicking about that. And
Oh,
thank God I had my radiation tech's number. And I texted her, I was like, I'm so sorry to bother you, but I am freaking out. And she's like, oh, Laura, it is really okay. Like, that's normal. She's like, it's just your skin, because like, imagine when your skin is peeling from a sunburn,
Mm.
sure.
right? And there's moisture. It
Mhm.
was just all the skin that was like,
Mhm.
like kind of coming together. And but man, I mean, I just was thinking, what do we like, how do we I don't know what's going on here, you know? Um,
Um,
so there's all these things you don't, I mean, it's kind of like childbirth too, right? They don't tell you all the things that are going to happen afterward, because they're like, we don't need you being terrified before you have the
yeah.
children.
People would stop breeding.
Right, exactly.
But of
Which I
course,
have to support,
we
by the
always
way.
talk about childbirth that like that is that once it happens and it's such a horrible experience, you forget about it then,
Right.
and then you go for another
Exactly.
kid. And you're like,
Right.
you conveniently compartmentalize or it
Yes.
disappears, right?
Yes,
So
exactly.
probably the intensity of this whole experience, kind of like as the time goes on. But
Yes.
wow, Laura.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is
Wow.
another odd thing, just as a side note, what you're just talking about. There's a part of me, and thank God I've done my own work, you know, is did that really happen?
Mm.
Yeah, that makes
You
sense.
know, it's a weird thing because I still have my breasts. I'm healthy again. And I'm like, did that did that really happen?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a very odd feeling.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that part of it actually is right because there's this physical aspect of it that's happening and you're so I imagine enveloped in the
Mhm.
physicality of
Mhm.
everything. But there is, and I think Jan sort of said, you're taking care of your children at the same time and protecting their emotions. And you're still, am I going to die? And I
Yeah.
imagine even if you reach that point where you're like, okay, this in this moment is not going to be killing me, but it's still faced with mortality. It's
Yeah.
still faced with the fragility of our bodies and, so
Hmm.
what was that like for you? And did you as a counselor yourself and working with counselors,
Mhm.
did you make sure that you had that kind of support? What did that part of it look like as you were going through this?
Yeah. Well, I will say, the hardest part is you realize who the people are that are really, in your corner. And
Yeah.
that was an interesting revelation, right? There were people that I knew would be in my corner, right? Like Ashley, of course, right? Um, but then there were people I thought would be there that weren't.
Mm,
And then there were people that surprised me. So it was just very interesting about like even the awareness of a support network. Um, that was an interesting piece of it. I did realize too that going through this, you really want the women in your life around you.
Yeah.
mm,
You know, it's not that husbands can't be supportive. It's not that they can't be there, but there's just a different level of nurturing that comes from the women in your lives that they can't
Right.
provide. You know, I mean,
yeah.
it's hard. And, men don't have breasts. They don't have this, you feel like you're being invaded all the time, and yeah, of course they can get other things that feel invasive, but it's just it's a different feeling,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
So
Let's
um
face it, women, as we've done menopause, perimenopause, have we done having babies? We haven't done like
No, we
the
haven't done that.
stories
We're
of
going to
that.
be doing
But
that. Yeah.
a good
but
one,
for
yeah.
all the things that we go through that men don't, I mean, and it's all invasive, actually.
Yes, it is. It's very invasive.
Mm,
And you can't, I don't think a man can really appreciate
Mhm.
that kind of feeling
Mhm.
that this is really invading my life. And I do think the responsibility that ends up being on women in general, whether you're a mother or you're not, or you're married or you're not, it's like we can do it all, right?
yeah.
Like,
Right.
the
Yeah.
whole messaging around this was fascinating. The messaging around my diagnosis was this is going to be a blip on your radar. You're still going to be able to work. You're still going to be able to do everything that you need to do and make it through this.
Who sent that message?
My nurse.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Yes, my nurse.
Wow.
And because that's the message that women are given. Don't slow
Yeah.
down. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and
Get through
so,
it. Suck it
right,
up.
right. And it really hit me because, like, I don't remember. Maybe this was February. I can't remember. Anyway, my husband was having cataract surgery and his whole life shut down for a
Right.
week.
Yeah.
How
And I
glad
was
you're
like,
going on this.
right.
I know. I
I'm
know
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Well, when
You're
you were saying that, I was thinking my brother had mono one time, and it was like,
The
oh,
world
like
was
he
ending.
was dying, and
right.
it was just like it is the end of the world. And
Yes.
I remembered him laying on the couch, just like, oh, it's the worst ever. And And that's what it's like for a lot of men is they get a cold and it's the end of the world. And women are supposed to just chug along and take care
Right.
of their children and their family while they're also fighting breast cancer and
Right.
getting treatments that are draining them emotionally,
Yeah.
mentally,
Yeah.
physically. You know,
We
women,
just
we're
we
just,
just
just
keep on going,
keep on
you
Yeah.
know?
keeping on. That's what we do. Yeah.
Right. It's
Mhm.
Yeah.
just it's crazy. And the messaging, right? Like, and
Yep.
I have compassion for men because I think that's the message they're
Sure.
given too, is like,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah. Suck
can't
it up.
handle this, so
Right.
you need to take some time to rest. And women
Right.
are like, oh no, we just keep up life as in general, and then also add in the hour and a half in your day to go do radiation. Like,
Right.
Right.
you know,
And then
Right.
so
come back and get back to work. Right. So,
yes.
so if you were to say, Laura, a message, if you were to give it to women today that get a diagnosis like breast cancer or get a diagnosis like skin cancer, I've not had melanoma, but I've had everything else.
Yeah.
What would you be saying to women for them to actually take care of themselves?
Well, I mean, I think, where I would say, because I do think, when we have women that are in later stages of
Yes.
cancer, and I think this is the important piece, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think where I started actually almost like gaslighting myself was,
Mhm.
this isn't a big deal. You're going to be fine.
Right. Minimizing it. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that for the people that we're talking to, we're not talking to the women, that have stage 2, stage 3, stage 4 breast cancer because um that's different,
Hmm.
right? They literally can't. You can't go to chemo, you can't go to radio. I mean, there's no way you can maintain what you have to do in those arenas. I mean, you are at the mercy of the doctors and you are at the mercy of everybody else. And I think the stage where it's like where I was and stage 1, I would say, is there's more of this idea that this isn't a big deal. This is
Hmm.
just going to be a blip on the radar.
Hmm.
And it's not,
Hmm.
And so, I would say like rely on the support because I think
Right.
where I kept going was I should be able to
Yeah.
handle this.
Yeah. It's not
Mm,
a
I don't,
bad.
it's not that bad. Like
Right.
it's fine. And so it's that piece is the piece I think that a lot of people that might have this diagnosis or like an earlier stage like stage 1
Mhm.
is this idea of like, well, you're going to make it, so it shouldn't be that scary,
mm,
Right.
right? Or you're going to be fine, so just put up with what you have to get through to get it
Mhm.
gone,
Mhm.
right? And the only thing that again is different is okay, so I'm most likely not going to die from this.
Mhm.
I'm still doing everything else that everybody else is doing in
Right.
regard to
And
it.
this, right. Right.
Right. You know?
So maybe it's a wake up call to look at your life for your self care, your friends,
Yes.
slowing down. What's
Yep.
the message kind of thing, would you
yeah.
say? Or
Yeah. Because I think that that's something that I've really considered with this is
Mhm.
what's really important to
Yep.
me,
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
and I know that stress and fatigue are bad for cancer, right? I mean, we know that. We know that they're inflammatory things. And so, how do I start to structure my life so that this doesn't come back?
Mhm.
How do I structure my life to really prioritize my own needs and my own care? And I think that's important for women.
Mhm.
I do think,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know this to be 100% true, but I do know that, the stress in my life prior to this was like astronomical. And so, I have, again, no genetic markers, no, like nothing. And here it is. So I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, what was I not in a, in a blaming myself kind of way,
Mhm.
but looking at like, okay, what could I be doing differently
Mhm.
that to make my life to
Mhm.
flourish more
Mhm.
versus feel like I'm, you know,
Right. Because, it's interesting. I told you another friend who actually tonight in like 3 hours, I'm going to go have dinner with her, and she had breast cancer. Well,
uh-huh.
and she's on tamoxifen. That's one of the things you were struggling with. And I
Yeah.
remember meeting with her about 3 months ago, and she said she's been on tamoxifen. Say, I don't know, she's had it maybe a few years that she's been on
Mhm.
and is deciding to stay on it.
Yes.
And I was thinking, gosh, how do you know all that? And what is that? So can you say
Yeah.
anything about that? Yeah.
Well, this is interesting, right? And so there's different levels of tamoxifen. And if you are probably in the stage one category or stage two, they will give you 20 milligrams of tamoxifen. And tamoxifen is an estrogen blocker. So it
Mm.
doesn't keep your body from producing estrogen, but it blocks estrogen from important parts of your body, right? And I did not know everything that estrogen actually, you know, like regulates in your body. I had no idea, until I started taking this. And so I was already perimenopausal at the time.
Hmm.
So I was already noticing certain things in my
Yep.
body. But anyway, with my stage of breast cancer, they have now found that you can give a woman 5 milligrams of tamoxifen, and it does the same thing as 20 milligrams, right?
Mm.
Great.
But what they also tell you is that at 5 milligrams, you should have no side effects.
Famous
Okay.
last words, huh?
Right. So the most confusing and infuriating thing that I have discovered, okay, is that I've gone to my doctors twice, and I love my doctors. My doctors are actually amazing people. I'm not throwing them under the bus at all. I think this is just the state of women's health, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
This discovery is new, right? So this whole 5 milligrams of tamoxifen is just in the last like maybe 5 years. Okay. So it's pretty new that they're telling women you could do this. And so I've gone twice and I've said, my memory is bad. I
Mm.
had 10 days of severe depression. Jan saw me during that time.
Yep, yep.
I've had my ear is clogged all the time, like all the
Really?
time. I'm constantly unplugging my ear. Um, I've had weight fluctuations, weird weight fluctuations. My period is all out of whack. Like
Yeah.
one cycle, it's 28 days, the next cycle, it's 40 days. Then I
Oh
bleed
my.
for 10, and then it's all over the map.
Are you having hot flashes and
Yes.
and night
Can't
sweats?
sleep. Yep. Can't
Oh my
sleep.
gosh. Yep. Can't
Yep.
sleep.
Yep. All the things. So I
Mm.
go in and they look at me and they're like, well, we think that's probably coincidental. I just happened to start going into menopause like the day I took this medication. I don't
That's
think
just
so.
crazy talk.
Right, right. And so anyway, so that then I went back again and they're like, yeah, you shouldn't be having any symptoms or side effects. The research shows, and here's the key phrase, the research shows that 5 milligrams doesn't have any effect on women's bodies. Okay.
Oh dear.
So Ashley actually said this to me the other day. She goes, well, if they're telling women that this isn't because of the tamoxifen, then how are they getting any research on what is happening to women when
Yeah.
they take five
Duh.
milligrams
Right.
of oxy? Like they're not writing down Laura has blah, 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 blah. They're
Right.
just saying that's not the tamoxifen.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So again, it's this whole rigmarole of like what's causing what
Mhm.
and also like what choices do I have? I don't really have any choices. I can't
Mhm.
take estrogen because it doesn't really matter. Estrogen is bad for my cancer,
Yep.
right? Mine
Yep.
is estrogen and progesterone dependent, so I can't do that ever. Um, and coming off tamoxifen is not a good idea because
Mhm.
that makes your chances go way up as
Yep.
well.
Wow.
So right now I'm just kind of like navigating all
That will
these weird side effects that may or may not be
go
due
away,
to
or
the
if they're going to
tamoxifen.
stay forever, or holy cow.
Right.
Yeah, it's so, I mean, so many things that you've mentioned today as we've been talking, they're just these crazy reminders of the gaslighting that happens with
Yes.
women and the
Mhm.
medical industry. And it is so sad that we have to scream to advocate for ourselves
Yep.
because of things like that.
Mhm.
It
Right.
it really is absurd, and it's so sad that
Yeah.
we aren't just hurt.
Right. I mean, and I know we all joke about Chat GPT, and I would never tell somebody to believe what Chat GPT says above a doctor, but I put into Chat GPT just thinking like, because I've never been able to take birth control. Like I've never ever been able to do that. It messes with me. I just have
Mhm.
never been able to do it. Anyway, I typed in, if you're sensitive to birth control, could you respond differently to 5 milligrams of tamoxifen? And the answer was resoundingly, absolutely yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, and has any medical professional ever asked me that? No. Like they've never
Fascinating.
asked. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So, through this process that you've been through, having these moments where you're either waiting to get information or you're getting information that maybe doesn't feel supportive of you, what resources did you use or rely on to
Good question.
either, I know you mentioned your
Yeah.
community, but like to really find that support for yourself or to at least calm and ease yourself as you were going through this, especially in these moments where you felt essentially like you're being gaslit?
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough to, in my support system, actually have a nurse who's an oncologist, like an
Oh,
oncology nurse,
Nice.
which was
amazing.
amazing. So I could ask her these questions. I also had a good friend who was a medical professional as well that kind of was
Good.
helping, because of course you get your results with things before the doctor calls you
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
anymore. And so it has been beneficial to have people that really know what they're talking about and women that can say, hey, you need to ask this question, you need to ask this question. I had another friend who went through a similar diagnosis. So she was also a good
Hmm.
resource. Because she would tell me like, hey, you need to make sure you're doing this. You need to make sure you're asking these questions. Um, be careful. I mean, with the internet it's very scary.
Yeah.
I mean, some websites are super reliable and others are just like, oof, you don't know where it's coming from. So, I mean, reliable ones like Mayo Clinic or
Hmm.
MD Anderson, a lot of these, where I went is Sarah Cannon, and they have a lot of good research going on right now too. So, a lot of these cancer institutes, I would say Sarah Cannon is doing a really good job trying to figure out women's health.
Mm,
They're actually trying to do an like a women's health center, which is pretty amazing.
What's it called?
Um,
Sarah Cannon?
Sarah Cannon.
I've
Yes.
never, is that a woman or is that an
Yes.
institute?
Yes, it's a woman, and there's a whole story about her, and I should have looked it up before, but
Okay.
yeah, I think she's actually from Nashville and just donated a ton of money, and so they named this institute after her. I think that's the story behind it. But anyway, um so I mean resources like that, just really educating yourself as much as you possibly can on the facts,
yeah.
right? Like I had to be
Yeah.
careful with that,
Mhm.
because people have a story about everything. I
Right.
mean, believe me.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sarah Cannon is out of Nashville. It's Sarah Cannon Research Institute for
Yes.
conducting cancer trials in the community for more than 30 years, and she's out of Nashville. So
Yes.
that's a good
Yes.
resource.
Yes. It's a great resource. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think, and also, I mean, I think um having um having a counselor is really good. I do think that. I think getting through this, like I used a lot of my tools that I've learned over years,
Mhm.
meditative practices, breathing practices, containment practices, um, a lot of these, you know, kind of things that we work in every day where these fears show up. And there's some parts that are rational fears. And then there's some parts that are
Right.
like, when confusion sets in, my younger parts come alongside and they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I'm like, we
Right.
got this. It's okay. So, I mean, using a lot of those, mental health tools as well has been helpful.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Wow.
Thank you
What a
so much for
journey.
sharing all of this. Yeah, I
You're
mean,
welcome.
yeah, it's always so helpful to hear people's stories and to hear women's stories
Mhm.
especially. And I think when it comes, I think like you said, men can understand everybody can understand everybody who goes through cancer or something like that can understand that,
Yeah.
but breast cancer, I think, is very unique in that way. And I think like my sister-in-law had breast cancer and had a double mastectomy and everything like that.
Yeah.
And there's this part of, our society, especially, that breasts are so feminine, so connected to
Yes.
being a woman.
Mhm.
And when all of that gets affected in that way, what that I imagine brings into, and I know for her, brings into question.
Yeah.
And, there's just that part of it that I think you're right. It's hard to understand unless you're a woman
Right.
and have gone through that, or even just being a woman that understands from some perspective of that.
Totally. Totally. Exactly. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right on that. And even, I mean, even prior to going through this, I had no idea. When I thought about a mastectomy, I thought, oh, well, they just, take them off and put some new ones on. Well,
Yeah.
that's not at all what happens.
No,
It's not at all, and they're never the same.
no,
They're not even breasts anymore.
Mhm.
correct. They don't have
And
nipples.
that's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
no, no,
Yeah.
or feeling.
Or
There's no
feeling
there's no
nothing, right? Yeah.
sensation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
very strange, right?
Yeah.
And
My
so
sister-in-law calls them her foobs, her fake boobs,
yes,
her
fake
foobs.
boobs.
Her
Yeah.
Yes,
boobs. Oh
exactly.
Her
my
foobs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
God.
She'll be like
Her
Yes.
do
boobs.
video and while she's in the tub and she's like, oh, doesn't matter. They're just foobs.
Yeah. They're just boobs. Yeah. They really aren't. It's just, I
Yeah.
know.
Oh dear.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of things that you just don't know. And
Yeah.
I think too, just one last thought, I was thinking about this with, even just this, the way that, my mother forgot to mention. I think
Hmm.
what in women's health, for example, I think the power in you guys doing this is our moms didn't know.
Right.
They didn't even
Right.
have the right to some of this, quote unquote,
Right.
this information.
Right.
Um, And I think it's really powerful what you're doing because you're actually empowering people to actually talk about the things that, even if my parents did talk about things, right?
Yeah.
My mom didn't get the same health care that men got in that day anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
Right.
and so I think what you all are doing just from this angle is so powerful because I think it's really helping people talk more,
Yes.
and really talk about the hard things. Like
Yep.
we can do this,
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
Talk about the hard
Yes.
things, because
Yes.
so much has been hidden and minimized and kept in the closet, and we're not about that.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
No.
So.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
Absolutely.
So
thank you
thank you,
so
ladies.
much for
Yeah.
coming in and being a part of our podcast. And
I
Patty
love
and
it.
I really appreciate, and I'm glad I found the whole story, got the whole story from you, and have so much
Yeah.
compassion for you. So,
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting year, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
yes, yes, for sure.
So, yeah.
So, thanks for
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love y'all.
Ditto. Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you like what you've heard, please share it with friends, subscribe, and leave a review.
And remember, information shared on this podcast is not medical advice. If you have a concern about your physical or mental health, please seek support from a professional.
If you have a story you'd like to share about things your mother forgot to mention, you can apply to be a guest.
We'd also love to hear a quick 90-second thing you've learned in your life.
You can find links to both of those over at our website at
thingsmymotherforgottomention.com or in the show notes.
Thank you.